The U.S. imposed harsh sanctions on Iranian exports last year, then backed off as 8 countries said, whoa, we need more time. We buy a lot of Iranian oil. Those waivers are about to run out, and it looks like the U.S. is not going to extend them. So
right.
What happens?
They were set to expire on May 2nd. The market expectation was that some of these waivers would be extended for countries like India, China, potentially Japan, South Korea. But the Trump administration has signaled they're going to announce today no waivers. So that brings up the real prospect of a much larger reduction in Iranian barrels. But I think it's all part of a strategy to get Saudi Arabia to open the tap. So I think that's why the market may wait a little bit to see what is Saudi going to do next. Because is Saudi going to surge 1 million barrels like they did last summer? Or are the Saudis going to wait and see in terms of how fast the barrels come off?
Because the simple explanation would be, okay, the U.S. is going to do this, and therefore we're not going to see any tankers of Iranian crude floating around the world. But that's the simple. You're not the simple explanation.
No.
The reality is much deeper and more complicated.
Right, because it's going to
that.
take time to wind down these contracts. I think certain countries will comply. Japan will comply. I think South Korea will comply.
But then where do they get their oil?
Well, then this is where it is. Do the Saudis surge more for them? Do they get it from other countries?
United States,
well,
perhaps?
The problem is, though, the United States barrel is a lighter barrel. We're really having a problem of heavy barrels coming off the market. A year ago, you might have said maybe some Venezuelan barrels would make up for it. Now we have Venezuela under sanctions. So the Trump administration is really walking a fine line between sanctioning countries they don't like while trying to keep oil prices in check. It all rests on Saudi Arabia. This strategy hinges on, will the Saudis open the taps?
Will they?
I think getting to zero would help the Saudis open the taps. But the Saudis, I think, are going to want to wait because last summer they put 1 million extra barrels on the market, and then they were shocked when Trump issued 8 exemptions. So I think the Saudis are going to be helpful, but the question is, what is the timing? Is there a lag between when the Saudis help and when the announcement comes into effect?
Because here's the contradiction. This is a president who can't stand it when oil prices go up.
No, his Twitter finger gets itchy.
When oil hits about 60, he gets on the Twitter machine and starts slamming OPEC. But at the same time now, we're taking 1 million, maybe plus barrels off the market, which is kind of a gift to OPEC.
Well, it's a question of, is it a self-inflicted wound? And this
is it?
Well, I think that I've said that I think he's very effective as an OPEC cutter. I mean, really, you have a situation where Trump has really helped OPEC compliance. He's sanctioned Iran. He's sanctioned Venezuela. Again, his strategy.
But he wants low oil prices.
Right. It all hinges on Saudi. And it's not just the zeroing out of Iran waivers. He also declared the Revolutionary Guard in Iran a terrorist organization. The Saudis wanted that. He's also come out and done a 180 on Libya. He basically is now saying very nice things about General Haftar, who's marching on Tripoli, who is backed by Saudi and UAE.
We didn't even get to Libya. We didn't even get to Libya because this news, we probably would have led with Libya had this news not come out over the weekend. Libya on the edge, if not in already, a civil war.
Right.
What are you hearing about Libyan barrels?
Well, that's why I think the administration is now a little bit in panic mode, because you can sanction Venezuela, you can sanction Iran, but it doesn't work if Libya goes off. And so now you have a situation where President Trump basically has reversed course on what our policy is on Libya. And we are now backing the general who's marching on Tripoli in the hopes that he doesn't take the oil offline. And also he is backed by Saudi Arabia and UAE. So I think we're really trying to ingratiate ourselves with the Saudis, hoping they will help us out.
Well, is it going to work? The president has been tough on OPEC, which is kind of a de facto slam on Saudi Arabia.
Well, I think,
but on the same time, he's got a good relationship, ostensibly, with Mohammed bin Salman and the Saudi officials. Do you believe that Saudi Arabia will effectively give the president and the United States the gift of higher production?
This is the question. I think the Saudis will be helpful, but they do not want to tank the oil price. Just as Trump wants prices lower, the Saudis need a higher price. There's a big difference between what Trump wants and what the Saudis want on price. So they will be helpful, but they will not trash this market again for him.
At 65 to 75 a barrel, they would probably be pretty happy.
Right, but they do not.
They don't want 55.
They don't want a four-handle on oil again. And that was what I think was so hard for them in November when President Trump was saying, let's get oil to 40, let's get it to 30. And the Saudis were like, we helped you out over the summer with barrels. We did not want $40 oil.
Of course, the other side of this Iranian story is, and this is the reason we've tracked these, quote, ghost tankers.
Right.
Just because you tell Iran or tell other countries, you can't buy Iranian
Right.
oil, doesn't mean other countries are going to stop buying Iranian from these ships that they turn off the tracker and, oh, here's a giant super tanker randomly floating into our harbor.
Right. That's why you really have to watch what happens with China. I mean, I think China takes around 600,000 barrels now of Iranian crude. How much are they going to reduce? I mean, so they can say we're going to go to
Why would they do that?
They would do it because
we're in the middle of a trade war with them.
Some of their corporates have access to U.S. capital markets. I mean, one of the things about U.S. sanctions is we can essentially say to any foreign corporate, you can do business with Iran, but you cannot access our U.S. capital markets. It is a pretty powerful stick.
And that's, I think, you know, I'm remiss to our viewers out there that don't understand how these sanctions work. You say, well, how can the U.S. prevent other countries from buying another country's oil?
Right.
We do it through the Treasury Department.
Yes.
If they do business with the United States, we can cut off the flow of money.
Right.
Inter-party transactions.
We say you choose which market you want to be in. But again, for the Trump administration, it's one thing to say, don't take Iranian barrels. We're now going to other countries and saying, we'd kind of like you to cut your Venezuelan barrels as well. We now have two major producers under U.S. sanction. And by the way, on April 28th, the de facto embargo on Venezuelan oil coming to the United States becomes a hard embargo.
You know, it's interesting. I thought this was going to be a boring year for OPEC. Now, all of a sudden, that June 24th or 25th meeting becomes incredibly important.
Actually, watch the May Joint Ministerial Monitoring Committee meeting. It's going to take place in Riyadh. That's when we're going to get the first signals on what Saudi action is going to be.
Helima Croft, thank you. By the way, we pinged Helima at like what time last night?
I was watching Game of Thrones.
So was I.
Yes.
So don't reveal anything. I didn't quite finish it. Anyway, thank you for coming in.
Thank you so much.